Hello, this is Dr. Bridget Cole Williams. Today we're exploring love beyond limits. Have you ever wondered, is monogamy in the most traditional sense best for you? Is your relationship built on lies or is it built on love? Today we're exploring polyamory with, oh God, Miss Kindness Ramirez on Healthy Relationships Only. Hello, Miss Kindness. I'm set. Like I had a complete. My brain left the room.
It's okay. My name is Miss Kindness. You got to take a breath before you say it every time.
Well, yeah, I was like, wait, who? Like, I literally just ran in the door. But I'm very excited to do this today, and thank you for coming on Healthy Relationships Only, where we accept nothing less than healthy relationships only. So, very exciting about this topic because I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're in a new space. I feel like we're in a new age. And today we're talking about polyamory. So I think we first need to help people understand what that is because people are confused between polyamory, polygamy, biagamy. I think I mispronounced that. And so let's start with what is polyamory?
Okay. So in a simple sense, it is loving more than one person. It
Right.
is loving multiple people. It is a part of the large umbrella of what we might call ethical non-monogamy or conscious non-monogamy. It is one piece of the spectrum of all the types of conscious non-monogamous relationships.
And just for clarification, just introducing yourself a little bit more, you are an educator and kind of share how we ended up in this conversation today.
Yeah. Yes, I'm an educator, professional educator, former classroom teacher, now college professor, and I teach many other things in the cannabis space and around it. I'm also a life coach. And so it's just in my nature to share my lived experience with the goal of helping others learn, gain curiosity, and grow. And my husband and I have been married almost 15 years, and we've been
Okay.
open for over 10 of them, practicing ethical
Wow.
non-monogamy at first,
Mhm.
and then went on our
Wait.
own journey. Yeah.
Practicing which one at first?
Ethical non-monogamy. That's where we
Oh,
started with just like
okay.
the core E&M. We know we're going to be open. What does
Okay.
that openness look like? It has
Mhm.
evolved tremendously over the last 11 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So how
And
did you know? I mean, that's, 15 years of marriage, 10 years in ethical non-monogamy relationship. Did you have any sense going into the marriage that this was you or him, or is it you and him, or did one convince the other? Like, how did this evolve?
great question and commonly asked, especially now in my coaching sessions, because people want to know, like, well, you started out monogamous, or did you really start out monogamous? I think
Mhm.
like most people, we started out with the teachings of our youth. We started out with the conditioning we had received. This is what you do. His parents are married. My parents are married. They've been only married to each other for their whole lives. That's what monogamy looks like. That's how you build a family. That's what you do. And
Mhm.
so when we found out that we were going to start a family, we focused on each other only. But in hindsight, in reality, in my youth, in my 20s, I always said, I think I want like 2 or 3 husbands. And that would come off like joking about it, but I now know that my true spirit was speaking that. And
I think
he
that's so
admitted
interesting
it.
that you
Yeah.
say that, though, because there's these little signals, if you're paying attention to your core, to your soul, there's little things that tell you who you are as a child that you
Yes.
don't really, but if you pay attention, there are things that were always there. And it sounds like that was something, not even really understanding it, but there was something always there.
And I've been practicing polyamory since childhood, in that I'm still friends with my first boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with my second boyfriend. I lived with my very serious ex-boyfriend post breaking up as best friends. He is now the godfather of our children.
Yeah.
So I loved all of these men and I loved them simultaneously. I didn't necessarily have romantic relationships with them all at the same time because I was
Mhm.
practicing monogamy, but I loved them. And that love has a spectrum. And I think
Yeah.
we figured that out a couple years into our marriage because we had these desires and we felt shame for having them because of
Mm.
our traditional teachings. And
Mhm.
just as conversations evolve, now listen, we can, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole we want to go. It has not been a perfect journey to get here. And it is
Right.
never.
No, but I think you should say that because I think we've gone from this being super taboo
Mm.
to showing up on Donahue. That's when I remember it. Okay. So, I'm a couple years older than you, but I remember, and Donahue is still alive and just got some presidential award, by the way. So
Yes,
it's
yes.
not that long ago. Okay.
No.
But I remember being a kid and watching Donahue, and he was still pretty straight social uh society type stories, not too risque at the time, but there was this couple and they had this woman living with them, and I was like, get the hell out of here. Like, I remember being a kid being fascinated. And again, like, if you pay attention, my assumption is everybody was fascinated and there was nothing, but I was like so interested in, like, how do they make this work and what is it, what do they do? And I was into every second of it, and every time they had a show about it I was like, so this works, huh? And so we've gone from super taboo to showing up on Donahue to a lot of people thinking they can be non-monogamous, but they forget the ethical word that goes
Mm-hmm.
with it.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that it has not been a perfect journey needs to be said, because you're
It
good,
has.
because people are going to be totally sent down the wrong path if you don't say
No,
that.
I
And we
mean, if
can
you see me
it.
now, like if you follow my life now, if you see me on social media now, you would think like, wow, like she has everything I've imagined I could have. And listen,
Mhm,
I'm living the dream life right now. But it has
mhm.
taken years to get here. And it has taken a lot of practice and a lot of coaching and a lot of heartache
But it's
because
taken two people that wanted to grow.
it's taken two
Two.
people that wanted to grow at its core. Yes, at its
Yeah.
core, too. And a desire to build a community. So for me, if we talk about the spectrum and where polyamory is, it is like this big ball of love. And I practice what you would call polyfidelity, as in we
Mhm,
can get into this, but we have like a closed loop. And I very
mhm,
much want a community.
mhm,
I've always been drawn to the idea of the village raising your children. And I don't
mhm.
know if it's because of the way I was raised in my family with like anybody's auntie could whoop anybody's kids type, theology,
Yeah,
practice. But I never got whoopings because I was a really good kid. But
I
yeah,
know you. I
if
know
you
you.
if you were at Auntie Sharon's house and you were wilding out, like Auntie Sharon had just as much authority almost as your mom, right? Because
Right.
this is a community we trusted. And so
Mhm.
as it did kind of start to hit the scene, and I do know the Donahue episode you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
I
That's
Yeah,
funny.
I too was intrigued. Like
Mhm,
you can have multiple people helping build this dream. And it
mhm.
can be easier if we all agree and we're all radically honest with each other. So
Yeah,
yeah, took a lot of learning.
absolutely. No, I love that because I think, like I said, I think people think they can do this and they don't understand what it takes to do it. And so can we okay, let me get into the weeds a little bit first, okay?
Okay.
So for people that are joining or don't really get it, because I know you're like, what does that mean, right?
What does it look
So
like? Yeah.
you have this amazing relationship with your husband of 15 years, you have children, you have another partner. Does your husband have another partner?
Not yet.
Okay.
We have over the years, there like I've had other partners that I've dated. He's had other partners
Mhm,
that he's dated.
mhm,
None of them have worked out to the level we are now. And that's let's go back to that like journey from monogamy, from practicing monogamy to being polyamory. We
mhm,
were practicing monogamy And that's when some of those indiscretions came up, because desire is there.
Mm-hmm.
And the indiscretions weren't like, you know, they weren't marriage breaking, but they were
Mm-hmm.
worthy of discussions, clearing conversations, assistance via therapy and coaches, and the work that it takes to really go inward and ask yourself, what do you want? What are you seeking? And can you be a part of this type of community? And
Okay,
so
can
it's,
I ask you something?
mhm.
I just gotta stop because is your husband as evolved as you are? Because
No,
you,
no,
uh,
hell no. I'm gonna be real, and he's watching, and the other, and no, by nature, because he's a man. I don't care what people say.
right, right.
And also, he's 8 years younger than me, so I have
Look
a
at
very
you, ma'am. Look at you, Miss Ma'am. I didn't know. I did not know. Very good. So, I
but
mean,
he's
okay. So,
more evolved than me in other ways. It's
well, and
different.
let me say that it still is incredible credit to him. And I think I don't believe I've met him so far, but I the love that I feel for a man that's willing to hear and listen. And yes, you're going to be evolved in different ways, is what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
And the fact that he can get it, and this is hard work, but he's obviously willing to do the hard work. I mean, I'm like clapping and, you know,
He's a special type of human. He's like very loving by nature. Where I
mhm,
say not as evolved as me is because he has more naivete. And
mhm,
just the general, I think, physical makeup and biology of men, the way they move is different than the way we move, right? I'm very sapiosexual. I'm very stimulated by
mhm,
a mind. And you can talk to me and
right.
I'm like, what? Men are very physical, much more physical than women. I think generally speaking, I know there will be the people who say, no, there are nuances. Of course, there are nuances. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, he has taken the approach of the physical attributes first. And that's where we've had to really work through some of the pain points, because
Mhm,
in this system that we are working to build, this community, each of our partners, I'm seeking a high value co-wife, someone who
mhm,
I also want to hang out with. Now, that doesn't have
mhm,
to be every poly relationship. I think of
right,
your partner's partner, which we would call a metamor. That's the term.
mhm.
Your metamor, for me, I heard the best theory about this. It's like an in law. You don't have to like them. You didn't get to choose them. But the range of your relationship can be anything from, oh my God, I love my sister in law. We party together. We hang out together. We argue with each other, to, yeah, that's my husband's sister. She gets invited to the birthday parties. Right. So,
Okay, so I love what you said. I think you're spot on. But you kind of hit something up because I'm like, oh my God, like you're like I guess I feel like it has to be better than that, but you make a good point because in again, for people that are coming in and trying to understand this, you have your partner, he's dating and seeking and looking at partners right now, but you're not seeking to be in a romantic intimate relationship with his partner.
no.
You
So
are
we
trying
are
to,
polyfidelity, both heterosexual.
right.
Yes.
Okay. So though in that case, you gotta it needs to be a good in-law, really, not
Yeah,
a
I have to trust her. I have to trust her. I
right.
have to trust that she is at an equitable level spiritually and emotionally and physically and frankly economically. We are seeking upward movement through this process and building community and growing internally and spiritually in love and abundance, but I am not seeking someone to come and try to take what I have, right? Then she would
You
not
don't
be on
need
the
another child. You didn't
stage.
adopt it.
No.
You
No.
need
I got two of
no,
those already.
right. You have the kids. You're not trying to like feed another, right? So
Right.
does your okay, can you say anything about your partner?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's also public, so I'm allowed to talk about this. I think that there are unique challenges when it comes to like gender dynamics, in that we're both hetero and we don't share. Um, there are other unique challenges that come with being in a queer polyamorous relationship, because there is sharing and romantically, and then those are other emotions you have to work through: jealousy, resentment, whatever. All those things come up in poly relationships. Just so people
Mhm.
know, We're not
And
not jealous.
monogamous relationships as well.
They
So
come up
yeah,
from so those
yeah.
same things come up for us. My partner is older than me. So
Mhm,
for me, it's a really wonderful I'm kind of winning right now with with the balance of energy around me. He's, he doesn't have any children, and at this point in his life has no plans to have children. I am thrilled about that. And he wasn't practicing poly before meeting me, but his heart and spirit were open. And
mhm,
now I know that he had done some research on it before meeting me, not
mhm,
connected, obviously. And
mhm.
so almost felt like divine that when I came into his life, he had done some mental preparation. And then after meeting my husband and, having those wonderful, deep, clearing conversations, made an agreement to move forward in an honest way. And here we are almost a year later.
Right. So, and it wasn't a pissing contest.
Not at all. No. There are
Like, can I?
moments when you can see how men communicate differently. And there are moments when I could see, my husband's, I call it new relationship jealousy.
Mm,
Um,
mhm,
but so I have a type. They're very
mhm,
calm, gentle, communicative, rooted, centered. Both parents still married. I've got these kind of rules like of the type of men I like to date, regardless.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so they both share those qualities, as in they're not the type of men who get into pissing contests anyway. And then
mhm.
deciding to enter this type of lifestyle requires you let all of those guards down.
Yeah, you can't sit around and let that be control you, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
Does he have a relationship with your children?
He does. After about 6 months in of us being committed and going through the process, which just to put some outlines out there are different types of ways of practicing polyamory. We always require like meetings and testing, and there's a structure. And my husband and I have a very thoughtful contract that we entered into via coaching, and we look at it and revisit it. And my partner, his metamor, is aware of that contract. He also agrees to those terms. And so after we went through this very responsible building of a friendship first between me and my partner, and then moving into a romantic relationship, my husband and I decided, Aaron and I decided that we need to tell our kids. And I'll tell you why,
Mhm,
Dr. B.
mhm,
It's because I do have this partner now. My husband doesn't have one yet. So I was the one
mhm,
leaving the house. I'm what you call the hinge.
mhm,
So I was the one going somewhere on Friday nights and not coming home till Saturday afternoon. I was the one
mhm,
leaving on Tuesday randomly. I was the one adding more things to my calendar, and the kids are like, "Where are you going?" And so
mhm.
at some point I said to my husband, "I can't have them thinking I'm having an affair. Our kids are not dumb. They're teenagers."
Right, right.
And so we had to have that talk. And yeah, the kids know who he is and they think he's a pretty cool guy. One's
So
more
how old
receptive
are
than the
the
other,
kids?
but yeah.
How old are the kids? Of course, there's one that's like, "Got it, mom," and the other one's gonna be like,
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep. She actually said, so
um,
they're 12 and 14.
12 and
And
14. Okay.
she actually said to me, you could have just not told me that. That's what she said. She was the
But
one I was worried about, thinking that her mom was an adulteress.
you're like, yeah, after all of your, like, putting your heart out there and making sure, yeah, you just coulda left that out.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's well-rounded kids, right? I love that. I love that. So I think we, like, laid out that there are different types,
Mhm.
right? That it takes so much maturity and communication, and particularly radical honesty, radical transparency. Okay.
Very,
And yeah,
very, 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 very radical. And I also want to implore people in monogamous relationships to think about what that means. Because
yeah.
oftentimes we want to maintain monogamy with the lies.
Don't
We're
get
like,
me. Look. I mean, so this is one thing I find interesting that it's almost, and tell me if I'm wrong,
mhm.
you have to have radical honesty if you want to even get into this space. Like, there's no way to do this. Otherwise, you're just practicing unethical
Non,
non-monogamy. Basically,
yeah, there are
cheat.
many, you're like using it as an excuse to cheat. That's the
Right,
term I've heard. There's no way to do it healthily without radical non-monogamy. You
right.
can do things like be open, have a basic rule set that says, don't ask, don't tell. I will always
Mhm,
use protection. I'll let you know when I get back, right? For some, that may be ethical if both parties agree. But if
What
one
do you
party,
think about that?
I mean, if I just give my personal opinion, that's not the type of practice I'm into. I need to know who she is. I need to know who I'm sharing DNA with. I need to enjoy the energy that I'm spiritually. I believe that one bad apple can spoil the bunch. I believe in that. So spiritually, I believe that if her influence is not congruent with our family structure, or even my partner's influence is in any way going to cause any harm to our family structure, then it's not congruent. And so for me, that wouldn't work because I'd be wondering about the energy and the spirit of these people that are coming home in the DNA of my husband.
Right.
Um, because it can impact how we behave. We all know we've had that friend that we tried stuff with that we wouldn't have tried with because they influence us. People influence us. So I think for me, that wouldn't work, but I can be
Mhm.
non-judgmental and I can understand how that is ethical for some couples as long as they agree. What I know from coaching and working with people through this over the last couple of months and my own experience over the last 10 years is that if you don't deal with the things that come up, they will show themselves in negative ways in that relationship. So,
Right.
the second one party starts to feel like, I don't like the fact that you've gone out 3 times this week. This don't ask, don't tell policy isn't working for me. And that
Mhm.
doesn't get dealt with, then the relationship begins to de-evolve.
No, and so just to dig a little bit deeper, when we're saying radical honesty, first of all, there's theories and books behind, and I'm not going to quote them because I don't remember
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is okay. And this is where let me give me my little soapbox, because when I really started thinking about this, that traditional monogamous relationships are literally built on lies. And
A lot of
basically,
people will be offended hearing you say that, but I might, yes.
well, let me say why I say that, okay? And that basically at the end of the day, we are taught to tell our partner in society, oh, I only have eyes for you. I don't see anyone else. I never think of anything else. As women, being young, getting into the space of wanting to get married, we have this, yes, I'm basically a virgin, which I've had people tell their families this, like this whole thing, right? And so
Mhm.
we literally start relationships with I have no eyes for no one but you. I desire no one but you. I've barely ever been with anybody else, and I don't even remember anybody else but you.
Mhm.
And so we start this structure right from the beginning, right? And it's not shocking that after you're telling these lies that we find acceptable lies, that
Mhm.
lie after lie after lie after lie of acceptable lies eventually leads to other lies. If I
Yes.
can say all of these lies, certainly I can tell the one I want to. Certainly I can
And
lie
and
about
make myself believe it's an okay lie that like, yes, I
right,
love my wife even though I cheated on her last night.
right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and what is truth? Right? Like the
Mhm.
fact of the matter is you play this mind game, right?
Yes.
And so once you've been playing this mind game for so long, throwing one more in there, what's that?
Yep.
Another one in
For
there.
me, monogamy is a construct of patriarchal ownership, right? It says like there has to be one man, there has to be one woman, and maybe we've evolved into same-sex monogamous relationships as well. But the initial fundamental concept is saying, I own you, no one else can have you, and
Right.
that's a and we call it love. We call it
Mhm.
love, but we don't
Right.
practice love because love
No.
requires radical honesty.
And as women, because we've been owned for centuries, you definitely don't think you have any desire for God forbid. And to be
Mhm.
honest, and men have always had discretions, mainly because they're outside of the house,
Mhm.
because they are the owner, right? And so that we built this whole concept of a lifelong, and life can be long,
Yes.
relationship base, the foundation is based on lies. And so the whole idea of radical honesty, radical transparency is the opposite of that. So kind of share a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit offline the other day that in order to to even understand radical honesty or how to be radically honest with anyone else, you have to first understand yourself, and you have to
Mm.
get in touch with your root desires. You have to ask yourself some thoughtful, provocative questions, and they can be challenging. And that means digging up the shadows. And those shadows you might not like, but they are you. You know,
Mhm.
as a coach, I talk about this a lot with my clients. We often think that healing means we're going to be walking in the world and operating as our best selves. But really, healing is a daily process, and it's deeply rooted in your ability to love the darkest parts of yourself.
Mhm.
And so that
Mhm.
means getting to know who you are. And that emotional work is challenging, to say the least. I will call it
Mhm.
hard for most.
Mhm.
Um, and for many, many, many people, it is just not even something they've ever thought about doing because it's too scary. And, you
Right.
know, humans have a lot of trauma. We have a lot of trauma, and there's all kinds of things happening in the world that continue to the complexity or contribute to the complexity of that trauma.
Mhm.
But
Well,
this
honestly,
work, yeah, this work is so freaking rewarding when you do it.
right.
You know,
Like, to
what it
be at peace with your own soul, and I think even with the Courage and Cannabis books, we touch a little bit of this because some people come and write their story and they're good, right? And
yeah,
there are other people that are literally digging up aspects of themselves, their shame, their guilt, their story. They're coming out of the cannabis closet. They are dealing with all of these pressures and thoughts that they've done a great job of bearing, right? And
great
to be
job of
honest,
bearing.
cannabis is a great way to help, pull up the shovel and bury it some more, right? But to have a good story in the book, I'm literally tearing the scab off because if
Hmm.
you can't get there, you be like if to be honest, the difference is that when you get to those hard parts and it's hard for people, they go from writing a nice, beautiful, well-written story to giving me a timeline of things that happened during a certain segment of their life, and that's the end. Like they
Yes.
just pull away emotionally. But if they really want to share and help other people, you got to be able to tear the scab off, right? And to be able to have radical honesty and transparency is to love that part of yourself that you don't really like that
That
much,
you don't always like. Exactly.
but
Exactly.
nurture it, love it, accept it, and then let it help you build the person you are today, right? And
Yeah.
that means then being in a relationship with someone where you are able to have relationships with your ex-boyfriends, which
Mhm.
again, we're usually taught that what I don't know about, but you're taught literally,
Yeah.
oh,
Once
you're
that's
married,
over, you can't go back there.
you
Yes.
cannot be friends with any X,
Hmm.
any that a half X. You can't even with a slash. You can't even be friends with a slash, right? And you have to let all of that go because now you're in this beautiful marriage that is so fulfilling and blah blah blah. And that was like your best friend from like third
High
grade.
school from like exactly. Yeah.
You
But
can't be
I'm
friends
supposed
with
to
them.
let all of those initial feelings of friendship and camaraderie and what is really love, right? Because
And
friendship,
love, absolutely.
love, go
Yes.
because you now, as my new owner, don't want me to potentially still be romantically attracted to that.
Right.
That person.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that just does not compute in my brain.
Right. And those people at some point, the good one, because the ones you don't like, you did
Yeah,
let them
you
go,
had
right?
enough. Yeah.
But the good ones that are part of making you who you are today, it's weird to then say no more. And I did it. Like I have
Yeah.
a best friend from like, oh, what, fifth grade, and then I got married. I'm like, oh, I can't talk to you
Yeah.
anymore because and that is a little odd. And I do, at the same time, for people, I get it, but then there's another way of being. And I'm not even talking about being in a polyamorous relationship. I'm talking about if you have radical honesty and transparency, there's a way of managing that. And my question for you is that all of this actually makes your marriage stronger. It can.
It absolutely can. So when we hit some points in our marriage where, like every couple does, where you're asking yourself, like, do I really want to be here anymore? And it can be over things that are not having to do with other romantic partners. It could be about the fact that I'm just tired of picking up this man's underwear off the bathroom floor every day. Right. And it becomes this compounding issue that you think is so giant. Now, our desire to enter an alternative lifestyle, I'll call it original historical lifestyle. But anyways,
Thank you.
our desire to enter into what Western America might say is an alternative lifestyle,
Mhm,
required that we get some guidance. And
mhm,
so, and because it was in some instances, it wasn't acted on properly, there was pain and there was frustration and there was ego and there was like, I can't believe you did this. And so we
mhm.
continue to seek help. I can't express enough how important it is to like find mentors or find people that you can maybe run this by and who have had lived experience, and ask them how you can do this healthily and process through emotions. That's the same thing I would encourage you to do in any relationship: a friendship, a parent-child
Right.
relationship, a monogamous marriage, a queer relationship. If you want to be healthy, because that is what we're talking about, you have to explore those inner parts of you and see how they intertwine with the person you're trying to stay connected to.
So let's go, like you mentioned the mentor thing a couple times. Like explain to me, like you're a mentor for others, I'm assuming, or a coach. Explain the mentorship. Like, do you look in the yellow pages and say, "Oh, I got," where do you? What? Tell me about the mentorship.
Nobody knows what the yellow pages are, Dr. B.
I know I had to say that though. I thought that was funny.
With the internet, it's so wonderful. I love the internet. I love the freaking internet. And right now
Yeah.
it's like, it's just so funny with all the memes and stuff. But people like us are easy to find with hashtags now. Like I hashtag like
Mhm,
polymom, polyfidelity. Like,
mhm,
we've started a whole page to help other families. The Ramirez batch moved from mono to poly.
mhm,
There are other creators that I follow that are really giving like historical data, facts. They'll make references about people in history who had this lifestyle.
mm,
And they're big coaches, famous coaches. The first coach that we actually went from therapy, relationship therapy, to an actual poly coach. Um, her name is Kenya, and I think they're called I don't know. We can put all the links in later, but they actually
mhm,
were on that TLC TV show Seeking Brother Husband. And she's a
mm,
Black woman, and she was with her first husband for 16 years, and then she met her now second husband 16 years in. Her and her
mhm.
nesting husband have adult children now, and she's been with her second partner for over 10 years. So it is, I mean, she was an inspiration for me because I saw a little bit of myself in her. I mean, obviously being a Black woman, being married for a significant amount of time before choosing this lifestyle, and just watch her do it successfully and really openly talk about her desires as a woman, her physical needs, her man's needs, their discussion around it, building family, building community. Her adult children are business owners now. They call both of the men dad. I mean, it's like a dream, but she
Mhm.
was our first coach. God,
So let
7 years
me.
ago. Yeah.
I think I should at least corner this with the fact that you're in California.
I am in California. We're like the free state over here, but
Yeah,
she's not. She's
because
in the
you in
South. She's in Atlanta.
Ohio. Oh well, then Atlanta. Okay. I'm in Ohio, so
Yeah.
but clearly, again, not only is the internet great, but you can do nearly anything virtually these days as well,
Right, right.
right?
And you're
So
gonna take to the internet. You're gonna look for first. I want to tell people to do this, and this is what I always say as a teacher. We're in the same generation, Dr. B. So we came pre-internet through internet. So we know that searching is very easy. And so I'm a little
mhm.
frustrated sometimes when people don't Google stuff because I'm like, wait a second, we didn't have Google. First, you need to just look up ethical non-monogamy. That's it.
Yeah.
And then understand that there's a spectrum that, you know, polyamory is not swinging. And what is
Okay,
swinging?
say that again. Just wait, stop, stop, because they didn't hear you. They did not hear you. Okay, I know
Let me say,
you're going on that point, but you have got to clarify that right there.
let me say it louder for the people in the
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
Polyamory is not swinging.
Is
They are.
not
It is
swinging
not. It
people.
is not
Okay.
swinging.
Just okay.
Yeah, they are both on the spectrum of the practice of ethical non-monogamy. But I will argue that many of us on the spectrum don't even really don't even think that swinging is
You
ethical.
turn your nose up to the swingers.
A
Just
little bit, a little bit. But the swingers, I love y'all. I'm gonna let y'all be. I just hope that you're ethical and you're swinging.
right.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Again, it doesn't work. None of this works unless I just feel like the whole swinging, I don't want to say movement or whatever, didn't have conversations about radical honesty, didn't talk about soul searching and community. It seemed like it was about sex and
I mean,
that your
that's
partner
okay
was
though,
willing
isn't
to
it?
do that space.
Isn't it okay if it's about sex? If you and your partner agree that we are going into this party to gain physical pleasure, we both agree these are our norms. Is that ethical?
But you already said we both agree, and then clearly you're not there if you didn't agree to be there. But if you
Right.
didn't do, I just feel like let's be smarter than our predecessors. And if you're choosing to join that lifestyle, okay, to go into swinging where it's literally just about sex, do some work.
Yeah.
Make
Like
sure you
James
have
says
some
here, a square is a rhombus, but a rhombus isn't necessarily a square.
It's not all the same. No, that is funny.
I-
But I just want to make that clear because I think people immediately will put what you're doing in that category, and it is far from that. And like you said, we're not turning our nose up at swingers, but I just hope that swinging has evolved because there
Yeah.
was a lot of unethical aspects to it in some ways where it was selfish behavior sometimes
Very
and
selfish and
mhm,
unhealthy.
and
Sometimes
unhealthy.
dangerous. Yeah, sometimes dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a scene, right? There's a swinger scene, and when you enter this polyamory lifestyle, the algorithm starts giving you all the information. So
Mhm,
I know more now about the spectrum of conscious
mhm,
non-monogamy. I think the reason why I like the term conscious non-monogamy is because it requires a certain depth of spiritual evolution and radical honesty with self,
mhm,
where, and I think this is what you're saying, where we can argue that it's ethical if they both agree, but we still feel like it's not conscious, it's not deep, it's not profound because it is at
mhm.
such a surface level of just physical desire.
And it
You know,
might not improve your marriage. It might not improve your soul. It
right,
might not allow you to interact with people that are actually make you a better person.
right.
It is simply it's superficial. And again, I'm not
Yeah, it's
judging.
superficial. Yeah, and if we go back to my comments about DNA sharing, and
Mhm,
Greg Braden's theory, you all got to look up the divine matrix, and
mhm,
how DNA operates when it's outside the body and inside the body is the same. So now you're just sharing DNA with all these people that you don't know their values, their
mhm,
characteristics, and all of that stays with you and can
mhm.
impact your brain and your body. And that for
Right.
me just feels dangerous.
Yeah, we're trying to live better, not go the opposite direction. So, there was another thing that you said about, well, okay, let me ask you this. We talked about how your kids responded.
Hmm.
One saying, you know, good for everybody, live your best life. The other one, like, get a life, live your
Yeah.
best life, get a life, right?
Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me about it.
Exactly. What about your parents for both of you?
I love that you asked me that. I am very, very open. Just like when I went into cannabis, I called my dad and I was like, Dad, my dad's an officer, retired officer. I said, I'm about to do this. I'm about to be on the internet doing this. I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna do it ethically. But if I go to jail, you better get me out, right?
Mm,
So I made the same calls. Like
yeah.
being a public figure, they're gonna find out anyway. And I thought, how unkind for this to have to come through like an auntie on Facebook who saw it and calls my dad. So
Mhm.
I did tell my father actually this past January, and he said, "Mm, I don't know about that." And then my stepmom said, "You know what? I think this is a lifestyle that you could have lived if I would have let you, because they've been together 35 years, right? Because
Right.
let's keep it real. Back to that whole lying and monogamy thing,
Right. Right.
right?" And so he said, "Okay, okay." He said, "But that's fine, that's fine, as long as my son-in-law is okay with it, because he's
Right.
traditional man." But that's what he said very quickly. It wasn't an argument. And then and once he knew that Aaron was okay with it, I would talk about my partner and just say, "My boyfriend, my
Mhm.
boyfriend, my boyfriend." And my dad said, "Stop calling him that. Just call him your special friend." So
You're
that for
special.
me, yeah, so that
Mhm.
was just a generational thing. Like his brain, he accepts it, but he was like, "I need it this way." My
Right.
mom, my mom was like, giddy. Like, what? Oh my gosh. I know you've been wanting a co-husband. I know you've been saying that. What's he like? What's he like? And then I
Um,
showed her a picture. She was like, oh, he's handsome. And like, what does he do? And so she's just happy. She's just like, if Aaron's fine with it, you're fine with it. Everybody's healthy. You know, we're not out here in these streets swinging. We're
right.
really, truly finding deep, high value relationships that will help my family elevate. And I consider my partner a part of my family now.
Yeah, which is really beautiful and not easy to get there. So congratulations with that, and to your whole troop there, you know, making it work for everybody. That's really amazing.
That's the next
Um,
children's book coming. The first one was about weed. The second one's going to be about poly families.
Look, I was sitting here thinking like, wow, what if we added like people's journeys into that's a whole that's nother level of courage. That's a whole nother that's a
Yeah.
whole nother thing, right? There was something else that you said when you were really you were talking about what your needs are. And I think there's this idea in society that everything's geared to women and their needs and what's that?
Oh no, just that. Go ahead. I was just, I'm like, yeah.
And and but and so that there's all this attention to the women and needs and what you know and they need their self-care and blah, blah, blah and all this stuff, but the other side of that is that a strong woman in our society is one that puts their needs aside for the wants and desires of their partner and children and their career. You know, they put everything aside. So there's like two sides of this image of how women are, right?
Mm.
And I think it's interesting to be in a space where you have done the hard work so that you can be whole, that you are exploring all sorts of intellectual intimacy, friendship aspects of your needs, which women traditionally have put a lot of that aside.
Absolutely. I think, a couple of points that I hear historically, we have been told that's what strength looks like. Ignoring your needs and taking care of your family, putting your head down and not
Mhm,
even ignoring what you know your husband is out there doing.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but the response to that in women's lib and all kinds of things have feminism have brought us to this place where we are now in the opposite end, like you're gonna do this or else I don't need you, dude. Right. And I'm only gonna love on me, because we haven't received that. I think there is a center. I like to be in
Mhm.
the middle.
Right.
That's
Because I
that's
hate
what
to hear
we do
that
this
too,
way. Yeah.
right? I hate to hear this. A guy said to me the other day that men don't want to even talk to women and approach them because women nowadays say, "Are you going to cash at me?" And I was like, "Well, wait, are you talking? Maybe you shouldn't talk to prostitutes. Like, what do you?
Right,
What do you?"
right.
And he's like, "No, it's just like
No, that's
there's
just
this.
dating. Yeah.
It's about just me, and you're supposed to be doing all this for me." And so there's this really crazy aspect on one
Yeah.
end. And on the other aspect is there is no me. I am just here to serve these other
Yeah.
humans, on the planet, and what who I am and what my needs are and who I want to be is not important. And so, like you said, the pendulum that is swinging here brings you to a space where, and I could see where some people might think for you to have a partner, and it's not
There's
your
an imbalance. I get that all the time. Yeah.
that you're somehow selfish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that, oh my God, and she's away and her kids, and but this isn't coming from a selfish place. This is being a whole person.
It is being a whole person. Thank you for saying that. And we are equitable. It is not that like I'm away, it's equality and equity are different terms, and we can teach that all day, or y'all can go look it up and see what that means to be equitable versus equal. I will say, I want to speak to something you said about the way to get to that middle ground. The way to have that balance is to also honor your partner's needs. And so, in figuring out what I want, it is inclusive of what my husband wants and now what my partner wants. It must be inclusive of that because
Yeah.
they matter to me. And
When you love well, you give, you're getting, but the joy of giving is
Mhm.
love. It's this whole kind of ecosystem in itself, right? That there's so much joy in giving as well, and you want to make sure that you're not missing that.
Right, right. And it can fall out of alignment. I
Mhm.
mentioned new relationship jealousy earlier on in the convo. You know, when I first met my partner, Aaron was like, "Yes, this is great. This is great." And then months in, he started to feel that change in time distribution. And
Mm, mhm,
go, wait a second, my wife's not home tonight, you know?
mhm,
And have to process those feelings. And sometimes he reacted to those feelings. And then we had to have clearing conversations. And, you know, he and my partner have to have their own relationship where they're continuing to feel safe with each other as we move forward. And so it doesn't mean that like once you lock in, it's going to keep on, everything's going to be fine. And I just get to leave 2, 3 days a week and nothing ever comes up. It means that
mhm.
you are continuing to be radically transparent and honest with yourself and your partners.
That's hard work,
It's
man.
hard
I'm
work.
tired just thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, that's because you love you love both of these men, you love your family, you love your parents, you want people to be at peace.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
ultimately you want yourself to be at peace. But everyone has to be on board to the common goal.
Yes.
Of, you know what I mean?
That's the truth right there. Like, what is the goal? What is the outcome you're seeking? Why? Your why? What is your why? I'm not joking when I say I want Black Dallas. I want 5 acres and I want us all to have our own house with bridges that we go and visit across each other. And like there's an epicenter that's also a monetizing for our community. And like we're all living our best lives. I mean, literally. I've told you this. So you know this personally, because you and I are
Right.
friends. I
Absolutely.
I mean it. What is the goal? Like, it is not to just have multiple sex partners for me. It is
Okay,
to
stop,
have,
stop,
yeah.
stop. That's what people need to hear. That's what people think. And there's the economic, okay, so you're digging into the space that we haven't gotten into. There's an economic, generational wealth perspective here.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay, go there, go there. Okay, go ahead.
So traditionally, let's talk about polygamy, right? Um, obviously it was male centered and it was patriarchal, but it was about this very concept of this is how you have more money, and that's why the men would be in control, but they'd have this community. You're so right. We're going to talk about that. That's why the men, they had this community, like they were a part of the church, right? And so
Mhm,
that held them up. And so everybody, it was about economic leveling up. That's what it's about.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
I would argue that polyamory is like the most beautiful unicorn version of that, because it
mhm,
is in its most beautiful unicorn version. It is understanding that it's about community, upward mobility, your economic gains, and the most expansive, beautiful love you could ever have in your life if you can
mhm.
have these radical conversations. And it's really hard, like James just said, to remember your lies.
Oh my
Like,
God.
if
That's where
you,
people typically fall apart, right?
yeah,
It's
because
because
something
they
just
can't
happened.
remember what they said. They
Ex-
don't remember what they said. They were like, "Wait, what did I tell her?" Like that's the and there's a weight to lies.
Yes, yes,
There's a weight. And there is a lightness to transparency that is
such a lightness. Once you push through the discomfort, the initial discomfort of saying something that might not make someone else feel good to hear,
mhm,
but know that you are willing to leave space on the other side after you drop that for their discomfort,
mhm.
you will see the most remarkable things happening in your
Yeah,
relationships.
and grow. So let me say this. This is not for everyone. This is not for everyone. Y'all might be sitting back saying, "Boy, that sounds good." No, it's not for everyone. Because this, they think the economic, you put that picture of Dallas, people are like, I want Dallas. I can
Yeah.
do that. But if you don't do the hard work,
Hmm.
if you're not open, if you're a controlling soul, this ain't for you.
The same for you.
Okay.
No.
If you are typically a just selfish person, this ain't for you.
Hmm.
Okay. you have to have this bigger, more, I do like the fact that you say more spiritual, conceptual idea of what love is and what your, like the idea of living on this earth and leaving it and never really being your true self
Mm,
is so,
heartbreaking.
it is heartbreaking to me.
Mhm.
And so if you want that, you have to be willing to do the hard work, and you have to have a partner that's willing to do the hard work to get Dallas. You, does not come for free. It
It
does
don't
not
go.
come, right?
I mean, even if I wanted, okay, James is going to challenge that posture. I love live streaming.
I love that, right?
Even if I, just wanted Black Dallas without being polyamorous, I got to work my ass off to be able to buy 5 acres and put a bunch of houses on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
and
work
then
my ass
if you want to
off.
stay in California, you let me know where are you going to get. Yeah. Let me know how that.
Yeah. But I mean, you got to work your ass off to be successful at anything. I don't know any person that I admire that's successful, who I aspire to like learn from, that hasn't said, I work hella hard. I work hard by choice.
Right.
I like what I do. And so I put a lot of energy into it. I have learned through this process that I am capable of being in love romantically with two men. I
Mm-hmm.
fantasized about it, looked for it, went through coaching to attain it, made a list, a very specific list to manifest it. Yes, I did do that. And then received it from the universe, and then had to continually nurture it to maintain it. And that's work. But
Tell me, because I know how hard you work, as far as your businesses and your aspirations. Is it hard to find time? Let's just be honest, right? Like, is it hard to find time to take care of you, to take care of him, to take care of him, to take care of them? And you're also, I don't know, do you have siblings?
I do have siblings, and
Okay,
I have 8 parents, and
right.
I'm a
So you
trans.
got your parent, right? You got, is it, and some people have a hard time just taking care of themselves. But
Mhm.
a lot of people have a hard time finding the time and energy to do the hard work to have their monogamous relationship working. How do you manage? Like, I'm tired. I'm tired right now. I mean, I how do you manage to give? I mean, I know you're giving.
I manage the stories I tell myself. So I don't just say I'm tired unless I really mean it.
Mhm.
And I will find a word. I will literally find what I mean. Am I sleepy? Am I tired? Am I exhausted? Am I hungry? Am I anxious?
Overwhelmed.
Am I overwhelmed? Do I need to knock, one, I'm a Buddhist. I'm practicing devout Buddhist for over 27 years. I
Really?
meditate every single day.
Mhm.
I I take moments, this has come up with my partner, because when I was first staying over his house, I would get up and he would start talking to me, and I had to say to him, I typically don't talk to anyone in the morning. Like, I don't say a
Mhm.
word. And then he had to honor that. And so
Mhm.
then we developed a new practice where he was like, well, I like to get out and get some fresh air in the morning. So I'm going to just leave you and go. And I was like, awesome. Like but I could have been like, I'm going to hurt his feelings. If I tell him that he's talking to me in the morning, he's going to think that he's talking too much and he's going to be insecure. You have to leave all of that out of the radical honesty process and really know your desires. And I need this piece for my mental health. I've taken 46 years to learn that about myself.
Mhm.
And I continue to learn about my needs and desires. And so I ask for the help I need. I seek the balance I'm looking for. I am very fortunate
I
to have
see the balance I'm looking for. Yeah.
yes. And I'm really, really lucky. I want to give it up because I'm privileged in a lot of ways, Dr. B. I've got
Mhm.
older siblings, retired. My mom's retired. My dad's retired. I've got plenty of friends in this community that I've grown up that if I need somebody to pick up my kid because I'm running late, my best friend Steph
Mhm.
will go grab her up. I've got a husband who has a very flexible business schedule. If we need to move some stuff around, we do. We've prepared ourselves to have that type of lifestyle where we
Mhm.
do have flexibility in our schedule, meaning like we don't work 9 to 5 and so there's a lot of privilege there. And
Mhm.
that does allow me the space and wherewithal to get through things when they hurt, but they
Mhm.
hurt still. And I cry myself to sleep sometimes. And my lash artist gets mad at me because she's like, you were crying this week because your lashes are all out, you know? So I'm a
Mhm.
human, I'm a real ass human being who's going
Right.
through the same struggles as everyone else, but I intentionally choose to love and to practice love as an action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. And that in itself, that you make that a part of your life, which I love that. Absolutely. Because a lot of people spend their time, they make bitterness and hate and jealousy is always on the menu.
It's
You
the
see what I'm
center.
saying?
It's the story they keep telling themselves. They just keep telling themselves
Right.
that story. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I mean, because we've talked about this, like,
Yeah.
you know how our lives are all over the place. I think this is so fascinating. I feel like you have to be confident and you have to be willing to be vulnerable to do this. And I'm so proud of not just you doing it, but then willing to share it with others. And so tell me, if
Mhm.
people wanted to connect with you, what would they do?
Yeah, thank you. It took some courage to go public, but I felt more confident, which are the two words you used,
Mhm,
because of the two men that I get to stand with when
mhm,
coming out poly.
yeah.
And I knew that it was going to blow my DMs up. I had no idea that so many people that I'm close to, that I already know professionally and personally, have wanted to practice this lifestyle, wanted to try it, have thoughts about it, already tried it, weren't successful, still
Mhm,
going at it, and
mhm.
thanked me for my openness and candor. And so I
Wait, let
appreciate
me ask
that
you
as well.
this. What do you think the future is?
Oh, I always say a happy, free, kind of queer, caramel colored one race nation.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
That's it. I mean, that would be my dream future.
Yeah.
Um, but to speak to your question, I'm really easy to find. When my dad named me Ms. Kindness 46 years ago, it made it really difficult to hide.
Mhm.
So if you just literally type in MSKINDNESS, you're going to find misskindness.com, and you can schedule a session with me to talk about all this and more. And I'm Instagram, I'm Ms. Kindness B, and Facebook
So
and
Miss
Twitter,
Kindness, and then you and
misskindness.com.
on social media, it's Miss Kindness what? Miss
Ms.
Kindness
Kindness B.
B.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
On
I'm really easy to find. And I like people. I have been quoted saying that. I like
mhm,
people and I enjoy even the difficult people, because maybe that's just the natural born teacher in me. I
mhm.
want to hear all the perspectives in the room,
Yeah,
and see how we can find a middle path. And we don't
yeah.
all have to agree, but we can all work together.
And then honestly, we don't have to agree on this,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
but to just hear different perspectives and for them to hear yours. And I'm so happy that you shared your perspective with us today. So we'll definitely have to have you back because I know first of all, there's 100 things that we could always talk about, but I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you're willing to talk about this today. And I hope that people will learn and grow in their own experience. And I think our last, peace and love. I hear you,
Thank you.
Damon.
And I love that emoji with all the hearts around it. For
Yeah.
me, that is the emoji of polyamory. It has
Yeah.
like
There you
all the
go.
I'm receiving
Already at
all this
work.
love. Yes.
Already at work. I love it. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing this. We'll have you back soon, without a doubt. And again, what a perfect example of accepting nothing less than healthy relationships only. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dr. B.